Hey there! Welcome to Zinnicimo's Quarantine Vinyl Collection Special. I'm Robert Zinni, the host of the Five Senses webcast and the founder of Zinnicimo Films. Have you ever played Desert Island, where the facilitator or someone will give you a question or a list of items that you would need to bring if you were stranded on a desert island? Since this is 2020 and we're living in a global pandemic and currently quarantined, I took that idea and made it into a vinyl collection in which, if I was quarantined, which I am in real life, what albums I would want to listen to over and over and over and over again. Each album has its own vibe, groove, and story to tell. I invite you to pour yourself your favorite cocktail, sit back, and relax as I take you on my quarantine journey through vinyl records. Oh, hey! Welcome to my quarantine dance hall. You too can transform your apartment, your house, and your garage into anything you want. Let's start this playlist off with some groovy tunes for a dance party in your quarantine dance hall. Number 1, Thundercat, It Is What It Is. If you're looking for a party in your head, Thundercat's got your back. It Is What It Is dropped right in the middle of the pandemic, and my desire to add it to my vinyl archive sparked this entire collection. It's clear that Thundercat had a blast creating this album for you to enjoy. This album is all about feeling good and expressing yourself in any way. The track list is jam-packed with some of today's best contemporary musicians. Produced by Flying Lotus, Thundercat invites Bad Bad Not Good, Kamasi Washington, Ty Dolla $ign, Louis Cole, and Childish Gambino, just to name a few guests to round out the ensemble. Interstellar Love, Funny Thing, Dragon Ball Do-Rag, and Existential Dread are some of my favorite songs on the album. There's a lot of meaning to unpack through the lyrics, and the album starts off with a feeling of being lost, and then Thundercat goes into a kind of groovy yet contemplation of what it feels like to be a black man in America. From then on, it's a dance party from tracks 5 through 9. Dragon Ball Do-Rag is a modern yacht rock theme, represents what it means to be a creative dork making brilliant art while trying to find love. Plus, who doesn't like Dragon Ball? And from there, Thundercat takes you back to a place of contemplation, ending back where the album started with It Is What It Is, complementing Lost in Space. He dedicated this album to his best friend Mac Miller, and when any artist puts that amount of emotion and energy into a creative project, that artist levels up and creates a timeless masterpiece. Whether you're in the mood to make love, escape, contemplate, or turn your garage into a quarantine dance hall, Thundercat delivers an album that will always symbolize 2020 in a nutshell. Number 2, Dick Dale, King of the Surf Guitar. Who doesn't love a tiki party? Tiki culture is rad with all its Mai Tais, high ties, and high fives. Surf rock originated in Southern California in the middle of the 20th century. Dick Dale's King of the Surf Guitar from 1963 highlights the golden era of surf rock. Surf culture has morphed into one of my favorite vibes. It's a mixture of 60s surf music salted with western licks with a dash of punk with a dose of weird. It reminds me of my favorite tiki lounge, Frank's, in Las Vegas. The album opens with the classic track Miserlou, which is entranced with pop culture from Pulp Fiction to Guitar Hero. It's a powerful opener that makes you want to blast this album and dance under Christmas lights in your quarantine dance hall. As the king of the surf guitar, Dick Dale guides you through low ties of quarantine and high ties and Mai Tais. He assures you that this album will get your groove on. The tiki party continues with surf hits Shake and Stomp, The Wedge, and Bonsai Washout. It's fun to transform your house into whatever you want your make-believe world to be. Well, hang 10, dude. Yeah, right on. Let's go to Pineapple Island. Surf's up. Number 3. Tyler the Creator, Igor. Tyler the Creator's 2019 release, Igor, is the wild card of this collection. I've never really listened to Tyler the Creator before, but through listening to this album, I've gained a new appreciation for this artist. This album first caught my attention when I noticed he sampled Tatsuhiro Yamashita's Fragile on Gone Gone Thank You. Igor is an album that incorporates many musical genres for the listener while they are engaging in a complex love story. It's really hard to label this album as a hip-hop or rap album. I view this more as a house-oriented album. There's a lot of house and electronic beats mixed with R&B melodies, pop-heavy hooks and choruses, along with synth, jazz, and funk with a touch of gospel. He puts the listener through a variety of tunes that makes you feel uncomfortable emotions. And then there are moments throughout the album that make you just want to get up and dance. Earthquake, Running Out of Time, A Boy is a Gun, and Gone Gone Thank You are some of the highlights from this album. I want to touch upon my favorite song for a second. Gone Gone Thank You ends with an appreciation for having the opportunity to love and accept that life is filled with impermanence. With gratitude, the narrator can move on, and I see this as a parallel of the impermanence of reality and what we're experiencing with this pandemic. Life can get very vanilla, and once in a while, we all need a wild card. This album is perfect for spicing up your quarantine life. Number 4. Weezer, Pinkerton. I'm dumb, she's a lesbian. Yeah, that's right. I'm dumb, she's a lesbian. That phrase changed my life forever. Over the course of your life, certain albums hold different places in your heart. Do you know the moment when you have an epiphany and everything clicks? Pinkerton did it for me. Weezer's sophomore album Pinkerton dropped in 1996. The album's music and lyrics create a cacophony of brutal honesty and a release of pain. No other album in this collection speaks quarantine than Pinkerton. Legend has it, Rivers Cuomo blacked out his apartment and wrote song upon song upon song, eventually creating a concept album that was never released called Songs from the Black Hole. Up until 7th grade, I didn't appreciate music. My friend Michael Joy kept on trying to get me to listen to more alternative bands like Smashing Pumpkins, Beck, and of course Weezer. On a July night, we are up in Michael's room playing Jackie Chan's Stuntmaster for PlayStation. We are listening to music, and Michael puts on Pinkerton. As we continue to play Jackie Chan, my mind stops as I heard for the first time ever the word lesbian. Little did I know that the word lesbian would impact my music choice for the rest of my life. Pinkerton represents all the shenanigans I experienced with my friends in high school. Tired of Sex was the first song that played at my ever first drinking party in 8th grade. Why Bother was my rejection anthem. I would blare Pinkerton in my 88 Oldsmobile all the time. Throughout Pinkerton's abrasive themes, it drops sentimental songs throughout the album. Falling for You wanted me to fall in love, while Butterfly was the first song that ever made me cry. It also introduced me to Japanese art. The album cover gets me every time. It transports me to a place where I daydream of living a simple life in the snow-covered foothills of the Japanese countryside. Pinkerton reminds me it's the simple things in life that make it worth living. This pandemic has been super weird. However, not all bad things came out of the pandemic. For example, Buffalo, New York has a professional baseball team, the Buffalo Blue Jays. Doesn't that have a great ring to it? Number 5. The Replacements, Let It Be. The Replacements' 1984 release Let It Be provides the post-rock and angst anyone needs to be cooped up in their house. It's funny, every time someone tells you you can't do something, you want to do that exact action. I asked my longtime collaborator and friend Scott Mancuso what he was listening to during his quarantine. He recommended The Replacements. He said he was listening to some angsty postmodern rock from the 80s and 90s. As Scott puts it, their songs often have this kind of sad but hopeful quality to them, like they've been knocked down a little, but they're still trying to have fun, still fighting. I've never listened to them before, so in the bin I went with Let It Be. That title says it all. Sometimes in life, you just have to be at peace with how the outside variables of the universe interact with you. The album takes me back to the drunken escapades I had in Buffalo with I Will Dare and Favorite Thing. I could totally hear this album being played in the Pink as we circle up drinking Molson or PBR with our feet sticking to the ground. Like true Buffalonian style, listening to this album makes you want to go to a basement concert and rage in the crowd with headbangers such as We're Coming Out, Tommy Gets His Tonsils Out, and Gary's Got a Boner. We can't do too much in quarantine, and sometimes we don't have the skills to handle the emotions and the thoughts that come up in isolation. So what naturally happens? We rage. In many a deep author of wisdom, quite sublime, I've read that too much traveling is an utter waste of time. Oh, life before quarantine and the pandemic of 2020. The perils of isolation has been in our culture since the dawn of time. It's been in tribal circles, oral histories, and literature. Just like this 18th century book from French author Xavier de Maistre, A Journey Around My Room, where the main character is quarantined in his loft for 6 weeks. Getting bored with the mundane, he takes the reader on a magical journey around his room, explaining in great detail how a mundane study can turn into a worldwide African safari or deep sea diving in South Asia. Here's a quick quarantine tip. Use your imagination. That's the only thing you'll have. Number 6. The Style Council, our favorite shop. The Style Council captured the essence of 80s music with their 1985 stellar release of Our Favorite Shop. I went to Adult Oriented Records in Tokyo in July 2019. While I was there, one of their recommendations was the Style Council. With my ever-changing mood, that song hooked my ears and my love affair for them began. I was surprised when I found this gem at Trax. It was like finding the Knights of Realm in FF7. Their name says it all. Their arrangements transport the listener to a mellow vibe, overlapping genres, pop, jazz, soul, and new wave. The Style Council are famous for their catchy hooks attached with their synth beats. Tracks like All Gone Away and Lucky convey a bossa nova daydream. There's a lot of soul behind the lyrics. The Style Council is also known for being outspoken of British politics in the 1980s, and it's clear by some of the more politically motivated songs, Walls Come Tumbling Down, The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and The Lodgers. It took a number of spins on the player to hone in on their words and not focus on their grooves. It's hard not to love the Style Council with their honest grooves. They can make you sing along to their black and blue love songs, and that's a sign of a true band. No one knows what the future will look like, but at least we have the Style Council to jam out to during a global pandemic. Number 7. Peter, Bjorn, and John, Writer's Block. Peter, Bjorn, and John present their masterpiece in the 2006 release Writer's Block. This album will always remind me of the summers of 2006 and 2008 where I spent that in Buffalo, New York. Bird Ave is where I lived, and that place was my first creative temple. When I walked into that house, I escaped in my own world while learning how to hustle in the Buffalo professional scene. It's funny to think that during this time, I actually quarantined myself in the attic. In between classes, exercise, and social gatherings, I was up there drawing and writing poetry. That's where I first saw this orange creature on the table, the Zwindler. Writer's Block is a complete album. Each track brings its own feel and energy to the table. No other record makes me see colors like this one. Now, don't judge me, judge Judy, because if you don't believe me, just watch Mr. Holland's Opus. The album artwork tells the story of each song while being quarantined in the apartment complex while experiencing writer's block. This album is a romantic concept album with the intention for the listener to experience the highs and lows of love. Everyone knows Young Folks with its hypnotic whistling, one of the best indie anthems of all time. But this album offers a dose of raw emotions throughout the album. Each song makes you want to move differently. Paris 2004 is a tender love song that makes anyone want to get cozy with their lover. Up Against the Wall might be the album's most honest track. The drums, the rhythm, and the lyrics, matched with the high intensity, is a representation of what happens when someone comes to grips with reality. And Amsterdam, which is the album's hip-hop beat, inspired me to go to Amsterdam to write one of my stop-motion films. This album has been all over the world with me, from daydreaming at Bird Ave to Euro tripping with my best homie to relaxing in Laos. I've made a lot of memories with this music, and it's perfect to be quarantined with this album. Quarantine looks a little different in the year 2020. Even though we're all isolated, we use the internet and technology to connect with other people around the world. And we get to see a little snapshot of how other people are affected and living through this global pandemic. This project for me, the Quarantine Vinyl Collection Special, is a time capsule of not only how I feel, but what I'm doing, the music that is soothing my soul through this time, and then commenting on the audacity that I have to witness in the world and in our society, and I'm just sick of it. Number 8. Kendrick Lamar, To Pimp a Butterfly. 2015's To Pimp a Butterfly is a jazzy, soulful rap album by Kendrick Lamar. The key to appreciating any form of music is to appreciate the perspective that the artist is bringing to the table. On this album, he collaborated with some of the most influential jazz and hip-hop artists and producers. The album blends together hip-hop, jazz, spoken word monologues, and catchy hooks that create a narrative filled with political commentary. To Pimp a Butterfly is a beautiful political statement about racial inequality and institutionalized discrimination. I got this album a month before we all found out who George Floyd was. I kept asking myself, why is racial inequality still a thing we have to experience, witness, endure, and frankly put up with? It's an outdated ideology, and we can't allow history to repeat itself. The political commentary that Kendrick shares are the same sentiments rappers and musicians have been rapping about and singing about since the beginning of jazz music. It's hard to ignore the truth Kendrick drops on this album, especially with the emotions that Kendrick Lamar conveys throughout the album. If you're looking for truth bombs, then you don't have to look any further than For Free, Institutionalized, Hood Politics, and Blacker the Berry. Kendrick can make people very uncomfortable with his words he raps. That's okay, he should keep doing that. People resist change because why? They're afraid of new and cling on to the old. Industries are evolving, circumstances are changing in society, but racial equality is still the same? This album stands the test of time and is a great anthem for social movements. Number 9. Pet Shop Boys, Please. It's great to recognize that different genres of music relate different perspectives of life. There's something about Pet Shop Boys' 1986 debut album Please that resonates with me in quarantine. This album is the sound of capitalism and modern normalization culture. It resembles Miami Vice vibes with a dash of Cold War era optimism throughout the album. The use of synths represents the technology and internet age, which goes hand in hand with their satirical lyrical themes. Their smash hit West End Girls highlights that idea. There's a lot of class tension in our society today that's spread throughout all cultures, yet there are two sets of lyrics that strike a chord of what's happening, whether it's being quarantined or protesting in the street for basic human rights. Too many shadows, whispering voices, faces on posters, too many choices, screams the nature of disinformation and fake news on the internet today. It's like they're mocking how stale it must feel to be a sheeple living in the majority. There's so many voices via the computer. Our online bots, the viruses for our minds? Who's the ones really controlling everything? Are we living in a broken society? The Pet Shop Boys end their album with Why Don't We Live Together? It's a simple message whether for romantic couples or different cultures. We must learn to live together. Number 10, Destroyer, Kaput. If I had to listen to an album as I watched the world end, it would be this one. Destroyer's 2011 release Kaput is in my eyes a near perfect album. This album holds a unique space through its large, vibrant sound. It's a perfect mesh between instrumental jazz and synth-pop songs as you take a sip of your favorite cocktail as you watch the end of the world around you. This is a perfect album to spin over and over again. Great music makes the listener want to listen and figure it out. My elementary music teacher once said, "You can listen to a song over 1,000 times and you'll hear something new." The magic behind Kaput is that after 9 years of loving it, I can still pick up new things. Right now I'm piecing together the question posed about America that are sprinkled through the album. This album gives me a Peter Gabriel Genesis vibe. The brilliance behind Kaput is that there's a plethora of beautifully orchestrated pieces. If you're in a mood for a poppy love song, tune into Blue Eyes. If you want a spacey odyssey, just watch the music video for Kaput. The imagery complements the lyrics that allows you to just slip into a daydream. A hidden gem on this album is the 19-minute instrumental, The Laziest River. It's a magical masterpiece that allows you to sit back and relax like you're on the beach watching the world burn around you. The most unique aspect of this album are the opuses. Suicide Demo for Kara Walker and Bay of Pigs knocks it out of the park. Here is where the poppy jazz and the 80s pop synth really stand out. There's something to be said about still being optimistic in harsh realities. This is a perfect album to daydream to, and I have all the time in the world to daydream during quarantine. Thanks for tuning in to the Zinnicimo Quarantine Vinyl Collection Special. I had a great time living some memories, giving my insights on life, and just really showing you how this pandemic has given me the opportunity to finally dive into some groovy tunes and listen to some vinyl.